Welcome, Solara here. I hope you guys are doing well, especially in the aftermath of Saturday's new moon. We are still, of course, in that new moon window, and we have entered what my guides have showed me is a very significant energetic window of time up until the full moon in Leo and beyond. But this 2-week period is going to be quite transformative for many of us. I hope that you guys are feeling a little bit lighter. Uranus did go direct earlier on Sunday. As I record, it's 1 in the morning on Monday. So just yesterday, Uranus did station to go direct, I should say. And I can say I definitely began to feel, even on Saturday night, but especially on Sunday morning, this sense of renewal, this sense of hope being ushered into the planet right now. And I want you guys to know that that is for you. Okay, these energies right now, there are many energies that are circulating in our realities right now, because as the old is dying, the new is being birthed. And so we have quite, quite extreme energies on both sides. But you are a divine being, and it is your birthright. I want to state this because, especially in response to some of the comments I've seen, where some of you are having a really tough time, I want to encourage you, and I want to remind you that as children of God, as divine, high-frequency beings, whatever you want to call yourself, chosen ones, 144, they're all labels, you know who you are, you have birthrights, you have access, to angelic guidance and help. You have access to peace that surpasses all understanding, no matter what your situation or circumstance is. You can call upon angelic help to assist you in shifting your own emotions so that you're then able to begin to come up with solutions. That's what they're here for. And sometimes they're just here to bring you the comfort you need in order to reconnect with your power and your truth. So please, in this time, please make sure that you are utilizing the fullness of all of your inheritance that is already available to you. I do want to say that. Thank you to those of you who got back to me about the download format. Quite a few of you said that you appreciate it either way, the downloads and the cards, or even just the downloads. I have some downloads today. That's going to be the focus of the video. I might pull some cards. We'll see how we do with time. I don't have as much to tell you as I did on Friday, but I still have quite a bit. So we'll get into that. I want you also to know that I got back to as many comments as I could this weekend. I want you to know that I read the comments as they come, but I like to sit down at certain times and respond properly to you guys. So if you don't see me responding to you for a day or two, I'm not ignoring you. I do read your comments, but then I like to take some time out to then respond. And that's the same for your emails. So I've gotten through quite a few emails, but I still have some to get back to also. So if you haven't heard from me yet, I'm still tackling emails. I probably will finish tonight and or tomorrow until I get the next batch. So please be patient with me. I appreciate your patience. On another note, I'm also adding a few new services to my website because I recognize and I realize that mentoring may not be an option for many of you, in terms of expense, but also in terms of maybe that's not, what you want at this time. So my guides have led me to create a service that's kind of like an Ask the Oracle or Ask the Agony Aunt kind of service, where you can come and you can ask me a question and I will return the answer to you on an MP3. So in that scenario, we don't need to have a 60-minute or 90-minute consultation. It will just be a simple question that you need help with, whether it's spiritual help, well, really spiritual help, specifically guidance, ascension help, and I will get back to you. And then also other services, such as if you have a question specifically when it comes to working with herbs for, you know, or creating a ritual for something you're trying to do, and you just want a little bit of guidance around that, or if you want to know how to put together a sacred bath for a specific situation, for the clearing of something or the calling in of something, things like that, you know, that are quite simple and easy to answer and to the point, and don't really require a 60-minute consultation, and you just kind of need a gentle push or a little bit of more information. So those options are I'll be rolling those out probably towards the end of the week. So please stay tuned. I have a few other things, a few other projects in the work for this channel, and my Daily Alchemy members portal, if you are a part of that too, which is my private members portal on Instagram. But you can find out all about that on my website. I want to get into these downloads. Thank you for being here. Thank you to my newest subscribers. Thank you to those who are returning. Let's get into it. So, what I wanted to share with you today was that my guide started to give me more answers around the why. I am a person who, because of everything that I've gone through in my life, especially specifically in this incarnation, I've always had a curiosity to get to the root of an energy. I see how it's manifested. I see the circumstances it's created. I see the symptoms, and now I want to get to the root cause of the energy in order to determine then how to not repeat it. And indeed, especially, I guess the reason I'm like that is for such a time as this, because it's really important at this time that as the old world dies, and as divine beings who've been sent on a mission to be guardians of Gaia and to help to seed the new earth and its dynamics and everything else, you know, so many things to think about, it's really important that we learn from what created the old world to begin with, because whether we like to admit it or not, the old world, we played a part in its creation. Whether it was unconscious or not, we still did. And in fact, a great deal of the energy of the old world was made available through us because we didn't know who we were. And what I mean by that is that I've spoken about this very briefly in other videos, and I think today I want to take the opportunity and the chance to break it down a little bit, because I have a big issue with the word manifest. You might notice I don't use it too much, and when I do use it, I don't use it in terms of we're manifesting something. I will use it more in terms of this is the result of something that has been created that is not necessarily what we want, or it's as a result of an external energy. And that's because the way my guides have explained it to me, as divine beings, we are not manifestors. We are creators. And there's a big difference. A creator has the ability to make something out of what appears to be nothing. A manifestor is somebody who has to grab onto something that already exists in order to twist it into what it is they want. And in that sense, and it might not be a conscious thing, that might not be what their intention is, and yet that ultimately is energetically what has been going on. And the reason for that is because the old world was based upon this idea of manifesting. This is why they had so many things they called manifestos. And in America, there's this whole like manifest destiny, and a lot of these orders and secret societies, that word manifest is a very big word. And the reason why it's a big word is because they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing in the sense of they knew that they were taking those of us who have the energy to create, who have been literally made in the image of the Creator for the purpose of being guardians on this earth. They knew our power. They knew our ability. They knew they intricately understood what it was that they tried to keep from us. And the reason they tried to keep it from us was because for as long as they kept it from us, they could continue with their shenanigans. And what were their shenanigans? So many of them, right? But the one I want to focus on today is how they, the binding of so many of us on the astral plane. Not only the binding, but also there are three main tactics through which this was enacted that my guides pointed out to me. For one, there was the binding of us astrally. That means that they literally were doing rituals to bind us or to imprison us or to keep us in boxes on the astral, right? Another thing was the freezing of time, so like freezing us in time, astrally speaking, or in the spirit. And then the other one was locking us in lower timelines. And that's something that was, although it had to be enacted spiritually, everything is as above, so below. That's what we were really, I don't want to say we were dealing with it more in the physical, and yet we were, because a timeline is something that is of deeper significance here on Earth, where time is a factor versus a lot of other dimensions. So the whole purpose of that, like I said to you guys before, as above, so below, we hear that all the time. I think in almost every religious text, this concept is there in some way, shape, or form. The most famous way it is presented to us in the Bible is through the Lord's Prayer, where it says, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in the heavens," or some people will say, as it already is in heaven. There are other scriptures that allude to that too. I think it was Jesus who said also, I think it's the red writing, he said, "What you bind on earth will be bound in the heavens, and what you loose on earth will be loosed in the heavens." And he was saying this, I believe, he was when he was speaking to his disciples about their abilities. And I want to say also, because this was my biggest issue, when I was a born again Christian, I'd always like grill them about this, and I'd be like, what are we doing here? Because in the red writing, Jesus said that, you know, we would do greater things than he did on this planet. And he was raising the dead, healing the sick. He made the blind see. He made the lame walk. He walked on water. What the fuck are we doing here every Sunday, lifting our hands up? Like, what's that about? Not that I have an issue with praise and worship, obviously not. But where's the supernatural workings of God that are supposed to be coming through us in bigger ways than even when Jesus Christ himself walked on this earth? And I think I was a bit of a problem for the religious authority wherever I went. And some of them were more humble, and they would, you know, investigate, but still. And probably that was my job too. But to go back to what I was saying, in this idea of as above, so below, on earth as it is in heaven, it's also in the book of Hebrews somewhere. I just can't remember where, because I remember reading it, and that's where it clicked for me one time. But how, this was a question I kept asking my guys, how did all of this happen, kind of? And, you know, like, they give me little bits and pieces that my human brain can put together and comprehend. But that was my question, is like, how was all of this possible? And they reminded me again about this concept of our world being inverted, and how, again, with this idea of manifestation, right? The enemy, the devil, whoever you want to call the opposition, cannot create. The enemy, the devil, can only counterfeit or take whatever has been created and distort it to create illusions. So I hope that you're seeing here where I'm going to when I say the difference between creating and manifesting. Manifesting is taking someone else's creative energy and twisting it either for your own personal use and personal gain, or to distort something. This is what my guides, you don't have to agree with me, it's all right. But this is what my guides said. And hopefully for some of you who have had that, you know, like it didn't, all of this shit that they've been talking about for years, especially as it picked up, this whole idea of law of attraction, manifestation, it's like, it's a buzzword, not even just in the spiritual community, but in the wellness community. And for me, that was a red flag. But, so this is what I was shown today, is that they didn't want the true stars rising. They didn't want God's chosen to rule. And so the way that they dealt with that was because, and I don't know the full details about this, I'm sure some of you have more information. You're always invited to comment below and share your wisdom and information with me in the collective, because this is how we all get the whole picture. This is the beauty that they didn't want you to know in the Matrix, and that is that we are incomparable because all of us hold a piece of truth. We all hold a light that when we come together, first of all, it lights a fucking wildfire. But beyond that, when we get together and there's no ego and competition, we actually all have bits and pieces of the whole truth, the whole puzzle. What we would even, the closest thing to absolute truth would be when we all come together with the piece of God wisdom and knowledge that has been instilled in us as divine beings, and we work together to put together the puzzle, right? So please feel free. So what my guides were showing me is that this whole thing, this whole matrix system, it's inverted, right? So they had to bind us, for one thing. Backtrack. So what I was saying, that I wanted you guys to please, please interject with your own wisdom about this. From what I know is that when we used to re-enter the earth, in order to come through and have an incarnation, we forget everything. We go through the veil of, I think people call it the veil of forgetfulness. And I'm not altogether, I don't think, personally, I haven't looked into it, I haven't really asked my guides, but my intuition tells me that that ain't right either. That was part of the, keeping people in lockdown. But because we come through the veil of forgetfulness, we don't know who we are, obviously, and by the time we enter here. And their main focus then becomes to bind us, to keep us out of our power, and to steal from us in order to continue to manifest their illusion of greatness here on the planet. They needed our creatress energy in order to do that. It's the reason why so many of us were courted, like so many of us were under psychic surveillance. So many of us, they had access to us. So many of us were being fucked with. And we were not only being fucked with randomly, but some of us were being fucked with through, family systems, whether it was conscious or unconscious, and some of us were vicariously being fucked with because of certain family members that have pledged into these orders, not recognizing or having any kind of comprehension about spiritual law, and how by connecting themselves, binding themselves, pledging themselves to these societies and orders, what they were actually doing was spiritually contracting their bloodline to give their bloodline to these orders too. So giving them, therefore, access to all members of their family. And if you, I've spoke about this before, I think, very briefly, I've mentioned it. Your earthly bloodline has very little, if anything, to do with who you are as a divine being. Your divine lineage, your divine legacy is not the same as your earthly bloodline. Hence the reason why you can be born into a karmic family but be of royalty. Cosmically, cosmologically, you are a royal. You could have been, you know, I'm not going to get into who you could have been even on the earth, but more importantly, you need to know that the reason originally you may have been these energies on the earth was because you were first those in the heavens. Okay, so what we're doing with this ascension is we're calling back the truth of who we are and have always been in the heavens onto this earth plane. And so the main question I had for my guys is, how did it happen? And I don't have all the answers, but this is how they explained it to me. So they bound us, they stole our energy, and then they crowned, quote unquote, other leaders who a lot of them, they used our energy to cloak these beings also. In other words, the whole matrix system was run off of, and this shouldn't be new to those of you who are aware of the book of Revelation, because Revelation does speak about this. It says, it refers to the matrix. The book of Revelation, it doesn't call it the matrix, it calls the matrix the great whore. And when you think about it, matrix comes from the Latin word mater, right? And how my guides have been showing me is that the matrix is kind of a false mother template. And so in order for that to come into place, they had to bind up the divine mother. And to some extent, and I don't know about this energy yet, because my main focus on this path, my north node even, is very much connected to divine mother energy. So that's where I kind of keep my focus. But that doesn't, of course, divine father, divine mother work together. So that's by no means me like getting rid of the truth that the feminine energy needed the masculine energy. So in the book of Revelation, it even talks about the great whore. It calls it the great whore of Babylon, who drank the blood of God's chosen to keep her false system alive. This is what they're talking about. They're talking about the matrix system that literally was siphoning the energy of God's chosen in order to keep its systems alive. Okay, the whole matrix was rooted upon the ritual binding, soul murder, and siphoning of the energy of God's chosen. And to this extent, all of their institutions were designed to not only do this, but they were built on this too and sustained by it. Okay, so all of their institutions worked in some way, shape, or form to do this to us energetically too. I don't think I want to get too big into like social structures and systems tonight, but suffice to say that from the time we are able to, you know, talk and, you know, like school age, we go to school quite early, and a great deal of the programming and conditioning happens through the school system. That's why we have a curriculum that they're very strict about keeping to, and those who, especially when I was growing up, it might be less, you know, it's been becoming a little bit more lenient as we move into the newer age, but the whole idea of the curriculum was to constrict and limit people, and those who refused to, or those who couldn't, conform to what it is that they called smart or intelligent, or the ones with problems, right? Or the ones who aren't smart. In other words, some way, shape, or form, the ones who cannot maintain the standard of the curriculum that they're set are outliers or outcast. And the point of that was to sow a seed of rejection in divine beings from a very early stage, because here's the truth. Most divine beings were not easily programmable. And this they knew too. We become more programmable as you break us down through trauma, you know, which they knew too. So this false mother energy that we call the matrix, she and her grids and the systems that they created on the earth that began in as above, so below, were designed to bind the Divine Mother and her children. So Jesus did come to save us. Jesus did come to save us. He's our brother. But he didn't come to save us from our sins. He came to save us from the matrix. That's what he came to save us from. And that's why he had the people of the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees of that day and the religious order who reported to Rome. That's why all of them had their knickers in a twist. Yeah, he came to help us break the program of the matrix. Pretty cool, huh? But they took that story and they turned it around so we wouldn't access the fullness of this truth. So I want to tell you something that they were showing me about how they mess with our birth charts, because the messing with our birth charts is partially how the binding works. So, and I don't have, like, full disclosure, I don't have all the answers here. I have the downloads, and like I said to you before, give me your feedback and tell me what you know too. But with the birth charts, many of you have real wealth marks on your birth chart. Really big wealth markers on your birth chart. And that is also indicative of who you are in the heavens. Your birth chart is a snapshot of what the sky looked like when you made your appearance for the first time here on Earth. So as such, it actually is a revelator. It reveals who you are in the heavens. And some of you have some really big, prominent markings on your birth charts that show who you are in the heavens, and also who you are about to be, or who you always were supposed to be on the earth plane. So this is why they like to mess a lot with astrology. This is why. But here's where, well, I won't say this is where they got it wrong, but I will say that what my guides were showing me is that they took astrology and they made it about the matrix system. So they made it about how you use astrology to progress through the milestones that they've set for you as a person participating in the system that is the matrix. So this is why, and I was talking about this in my reading the other day, like, I'm not an astrologer. The training I have in astrology is purely based upon energy, and what my guides have shown me, and also how my guides taught me to use the tarot. That's what my knowledge is about. And now when I look back at it, I see why. I think it's because it was supposed to lead me to this point where I had a completely different outlook on what astrology is, or how I explain it, like when I do a Tarotstrology report for you, because ultimately astrology is supposed to be a snapshot of who you are in the heavens, and how that's going to, how that correlates with your soul's journey on this incarnation. And if you think about that, then it's here to help you ascend. It's here to unlock your understanding of the knowledge and the wisdom you already bring from past incarnations and your actual status in the heavens. That's what astrology is ultimately supposed to do. But they took it and again inverted it slightly and made it about, oh, the second house is about finances and resources, and it's ruled by the bull, and what's in front of the big ass Wall Street. What is the Wall Street symbol? It's the bull. Like all of this energy is throughout. They use our own magic to try and bind us, right? In all ways. But the way I was explained, the way my guides have explained the second house to me, is that your second house is about your light. It is your light. And this is why they took it as a bull too, because this is what they were doing. They were monetizing off of your light, right? So the second house is actually the value, the treasure that you're sent into the earth with, that is supposed to be exclusively for your use and your mission. That's what it's supposed to be about. And the more you're able to grow that light, the more you're able to advance and ascend, because really ascension is about what? It's about achieving this ability to connect and grow with your light so that you can activate to a higher level your light body. That's really what ascension, that's how you travel and live in other dimensions or travel interdimensionally. But instead of that, they made it about the making of money, which actually is the gross product and not the root energy. You're the root energy, right? So the way that my guide showed me is that the zodiac is broken down in the 6 houses of self. So you have Aries, which is all about how you come into the world and who you are, and your divine identity, which is very connected, again, to your heavenly reality that you're here to now actualize on earth. And Aries, to that extent, is crown chakra energy. It rules the head. I won't go through every single sign. If you guys are interested in learning that, let me know. I might do a series about that. I think I'm going to do some. I won't get into that, but let me know about your interest in that. But yeah, so if you can take astrology and make it again about the pursuit of the things that they say is important in the matrix, and again, you're inverting our reality. You're binding us and keeping us from actually knowing what we're here to do and what we're here for. And whenever you, as a child of God, are ignorant of your riches, you are open to be stolen from. And in fact, the Bible talks about this quite a bit. It does in different, especially I think in the book of Proverbs, where it speaks about wisdom, but it tells you it in riddles, because, well, that's just, the nature of many religious texts. But what my guides were also showing me is that we are not a sign. We are, like, I know that we say, like, oh, what's your sun sign? You're ascending. You are all the signs. You are the entirety of the universe experiencing yourself in physical form on the earth. You are every single sign. And if, again, that idea of giving us a sun sign and a moon sign, and yes, it's important to know these things in order to hone in on the energies of that, but what I find that does in Western astrology, and the purpose of that, is that it also creates this energy of fragmentation. Whereas now we have, like, and I laugh at it too, but we have all of this prejudice against certain signs, right? That we've dealt with because this person has their sun in this sign or their moon in this sign, and now we have an issue with this sign. And the truth is, when we have an issue with a sign, we have an issue with ourselves, because the signs, we inhabit all of them. Like, the constellations are attached to our bodies. Like I said, Aries is the head, Taurus is your neck and your throat, Gemini are your hands, Cancer your breast, and to some extent your back. Leo is your heart. Virgo is your gut. Libra are your hips. Scorpio is your womb space or your reproductive organs. Sagittarius are the thighs. Capricorn are the knees. Aquarius are the shins and the ankles. Pisces are the feet. And to that extent, you can even use astrology to heal. That's what we used to do once upon a time, connect with the constellations in order to heal. And this again, this idea of limiting us by breaking down our chart into signs and not giving us the full scope of the picture, which is that everything is us and we are everything. It again creates that foundation that they needed in order for further soul fragmentation. When I tell you that they covered, you know, it's quite impressive when you think about what they did. They covered every fucking base. Every base, right? So ultimately, what your chart is a map for your soul's journey in this incarnation. But it's not really, it's a map to the extent that it shows you kind of where you're supposed to go in order to get to what we call the North Node. But the reality is that if we had full access to the truth of who we are and the purpose, God's purpose for astrology for us, our North Node wouldn't be this thing that's so difficult to get to. That would be our focus from the time that we enter the planet, and that would be what ultimately our families would be here to help us to do. We would be here all working together to assist one another to get to our North Node sooner, because you're not supposed to get to your North Node then die. You know, they have their universities where at 18 you graduate and go to university. I would think that maybe by the time you become an adult, you should have begun the journey through your North Node. That's what, if everything is working in alignment with your divine power and truth, I would think that would have been the purpose of astrology, you know? Yeah. In other words, your chart is not here, is not a way for you to triumph in the matrix system, as they led you to believe. That was part of how they bound us. Because again, for as long as we were not connected to the root energy, for as long as we thought the second house was about money and accumulating things, then that became our focus instead of the fact that we were being used to that end for other people. And, you know, I'm going to tell you guys, like, there's a very famous coffee company where they blatantly tell you what they do. Begins with a star. What is that about? Could it be about star people? Star seeds? That they turn into what? With their, it's a Dagon creature, right? As their logo. Which is one of the main entities that they all worship and has been responsible for keeping maritime law alive, as opposed to universal law thriving on this planet. So they used you to turn their water into wine. They used us to turn their water into wine, and then they left us thirsty. I hope that you start to look at the Bible stories in so many different ways now with this information, because it's blowing my mind. It really is blowing my mind. Should we go into the Moonology Oracle? Let's do a quick reading. Let's see if there's any messages I get from the cards concerning this. Emotions are running high. Supermoon. A fiery climax approaches. You bet your bottom dollar a fiery climax is approaching. Yes. What did my guides tell you? Tell me? Going out with a bang. Messages. You haven't. Ooh. Surrender to the divine. Full moon, full moon, full moon. Surrender to the divine has come out. Full moon, and then we have at the bottom, because adjustments are required. In other words, guys, hold your energy at this point. Hold your light. This is what we're really being called to do at this point. To really, the full moon, the surrender to the divine. We have reached the fullness of a certain energy. That's wrapping up a huge cycle. And that's not to say, I want to be very clear, because there are many cycles that are happening, because there are many timelines happening right now. And so for some of y'all, especially if you're connecting with my energy, you are about to close out a huge cycle. This is why these energies are the way they are for you. But there are other waves that are coming behind us, and there are other waves that have gone before us. And so as such, this cycle is going to mean something different for you than it's going to mean for someone else who might just be waking up. You get what I'm saying? But where you are right now is because of where you are on your path and what it is you're about to do. You're being called to hold your light right now, because the energies that are available to shift you into your next divine reality are pregnant. Like that word, I like I was saying on Friday, that's like a big word for me right now. It's like this pregnant, the energy is pregnant. And like I said in the video from Friday, we are in a really big energetic window over the next 2 weeks as we head into the full moon in Leo. This Aquarian energy is about bringing in newness, but it's also about putting to death certain things too that have stopped us from being able to live as stars. And when I say stars, I'm not talking about their fake celebrity culture. I'm talking about as the chosen ones that were sent to be stewards of this place. That's ultimately who we are as chosen ones, like chosen ones. Like, it's not even that we're just chosen because of ascension. We've always been chosen. We've always been chosen to be guardians of this planet. And basically, we're getting that back. And so as things continue to fall into place, because this is going to take, well, who knows, because time isn't really functioning the way it once upon a time did. But as that happens, we're being called to be in a state of surrender right now. Like, and that word surrender, 155 on my clock, is like, you've graduated, yeah. You've graduated, and then it's also justice card energy. You've graduated to a space. We've graduated to a place where by now many of us should have a really strong faith, and a faith that is deeper than faith. It's a knowing, and it's a deep level of trust based upon your own journey, your own insight, and your own knowing the plan moving forward. Like, we're supposed to be so secure in that right now that we do surrender. In other words, we shouldn't be worrying about the things that other people in the world are worrying about right now, because we're good. We're taken care of. We know where we're going. We know who we are. We know how this is already, I'm not even going to say we know how this ends. We know how this has already ended. It's just that dimensionally speaking, it takes a little bit longer for it to play out in real time. But in the heavens, it's already done. Decrees have gone out. Judgments have been made. Sentencing is happening. Like, and I'm not like saying that more of that's not going to happen. But when I say like the big gun energies that were responsible for, it's done. It's done. And so we're not here to live in fear. We're here to live in faith, especially now more than ever. Like, there are, like I said to you at the beginning, there are There's profound darkness happening, even within the context of our own personal lives. But greater is the light that is within you, that is showing you who you are at this time and leading you, like the hermit with the lamp, into the wheel of fortune. Greater is that light that's in you than any of the fuckery that's happening around you. And when it becomes too much, part of the surrender is knowing what your divine resources are to help yourself come through. Because right now, we're all going through the valley of the shadow of death. Because on the other side of that, our table is already prepared. And the table that is prepared for us is one like I don't even think we're aware of at this point. And it's by invitation only. And we're being walked there. We are. But then there's a whole bunch of stuff that's being thrown at us too as we make our journey there. You know, and it's just a time to be sure of who we are. That's part of the surrender, and part of the surrender is also knowing, because we know who we are, knowing what our resources are in terms of angelic help, but also in terms of your authority already here on the earth. You have authority here on the earth. You do. You know, it may not come through in the way that the 3D matrix would call authority, but for as long as you've taken back control over your energy and your light body, you do have authority. You have authority over that. You have authority over who accesses that. You have authority over whether you allow someone to fuck with you so much that you stay in energies that you know you don't want to live in. We have more power than a lot of the time we like to think. Adjustments are required. We're in the 3rd quarter moon. So yeah, things are moving. Things are moving, but as always, because you're not dealing with a static situation or energy or even one person, we have to surrender to the divine as everything is put into place. A lot of the stuff that's happening right now, especially if you're in heavy warfare, is because there's a lot coming to you, right? And part of that is that it's like your guides, God, everything is being orchestrated in a certain way. There are certain things that have to happen in order for you to get the fullness of what is due you. And for many of you, the greater your warfare, the greater thing that is on the other side, the more you might have on your table than you're aware of. And this is why these energies are going to fight you so hard. But this is where you have to grab a hold of knowing that, oh, wait a minute, you're fighting me this hard. You're trying to make my light. You're trying to dim my light. You're trying to make me think there is no hope. You're trying to make me give up, because that is ultimately your plan, because of the extent of what awaits me. Okay, I see you. Oh, okay, I see the shame. I see your shame, and I raise you my joy. How about that? I see the shame you're trying to trap me in. I see the guilt you're trying to trap me in. I see the fear or the anxiety or the apathy you're trying to trap me in again. Because in those energies, you could control me and take from me, right? I see that energy, and I raise you my joy. I raise you my divine power. I raise you my divine truth. I raise you the knowledge, the full knowledge of my divine inheritance and who I am and what I came here to do and who you aren't anymore, or never were, and couldn't be unless you bound me. How about that? How about that? Yeah. Nothing's moving. So I guess that's just the message. I've shuffled. We have the same at the bottom. We have the same at the bottom. We are learning how to be creators, guys. We're learning how to create our reality again. That's what all of this is. So sometimes what we need to do before the circumstance changes, the mind and the heart does. So we're being challenged right now to tune into what it is that we can't see with our eyes, but we feel so strongly, and what has driven us this whole time, and to tune into that in a deeper way, because that's how we change our circumstances. That's how we're changing the world. That's how we already have. So please be encouraged. I'm sending you guys so much love and peace. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your assistance in helping me grow. Thank you for sharing my messages. Thank you for commenting, emails, donations. I appreciate it all. I will see you guys again soon. Until next time, be well.